The Trump campaign is doing damage control around their own VP pick and his comments about childless cat ladies. Here's what some young progressives in the battleground state of Wisconsin told us about J.D. Vance.
What do you think of J.D. Vance?
I've only heard one soundbite, and that was enough.
Yeah,
Strange fellow.
What do you think, Anthony?
He's just such an odd person. He's proven himself, and I think this is why Trump loves him so much. He's proven himself personally to Trump to be exquisitely malleable, right? Because he started off his narrative about Trump just totally tearing him apart, excoriating him, and just, you know, over time, just like a lot of other lawmakers on the right, they kissed the ring and they made that transition. There's been very few people that surpassed Vance in that respect. And so I think as far as Trump is concerned, he's really earned that position.
My mom is from Appalachia. She's from rural western North Carolina, and my whole family goes back generations there. The TVA saved my family. My grandma had burlap sacks for underwear, and I am instilled in that every day when I talk to my mom. She always says, don't forget that. And I find his depiction of people from Appalachia to be so offensive. He got out and he sold his book, and he doesn't go back. He doesn't talk about his family. They're just a sad story about poor America. Instead of what they are, which is victims of exactly the kind of price gouging capitalist narcissists that he has decided to become a part of.
Okay, let's bring in former Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards. Tim Miller is former communications director for Jeb Bush's 2016 campaign, host of the Bulwark podcast, and an MSNBC political analyst. And joining me here is Elise Jordan, who conducted that focus group. She is a former aide in the George W. Bush White House and an MSNBC political analyst. You were trying to have a moment of peace this morning in the green room, and I poked my head in to tell you how revelatory I think your panels have been. This is an example of that. Tell us more about your takeaway as someone experienced in this of these voters' impressions.
Well, when we put together the groups, it was pre-seismic shakeup in American politics, and President Biden was still the nominee. It worked out perfectly. Our timing was great, because then that Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, I got to talk to voters in the very important state of Wisconsin about where they were. And we wanted to test the progressives on how enthusiastic they were about the Democratic nominee and the new nominee, Kamala Harris. They are incredibly enthused and activated. They're ready to get out and campaign. So that kind of answered that question. But then going through the gamut of what they felt. The J.D. Vance became...
Wow, that's the flip side, right?
Yes, and just to kind of say this with the cat lady debate, this was organic. I didn't press them. I didn't even ask them if they thought he was weird. The weird movement hadn't even started yet. This was their impression, and it was how they put forth what they thought of J.D. Vance.
It made me think immediately when I heard this, if there had already been maybe some focus groups on the part of the Harris campaign, and the weird sort of, idea came out of that, because as you said, that was very organic. So, Tim, last night, Donald Trump tried to clean up Vance's earlier comments about childless cat ladies. I'm going to play that.
He made a statement having to do with families. That doesn't mean that people that aren't a member of a big and beautiful family with 400 children around and everything else, it doesn't mean that a person doesn't have, he's not against anything, but he loves family.
And since then, Tim, more comments have surfaced from Vance from 2020 saying he worries not having children makes people more sociopathic. You've run communications for a presidential campaign, so how do you deal with this?
Well, you probably don't pick J.D. Vance to start with. I think you do a little bit better of a vet for your VP pick. But now that you're in this situation, I'll tell you one thing you don't do. J.D. Vance, in his attempt to clean up on Megyn Kelly, said something to the effect of, well, I don't have anything against cats. I was being sarcastic, and I don't have anything against cats, which I guess leaves you to wonder if he does still have things against women, childless women. And it seems like the answer to that is yes, because that wasn't a one-off sarcastic comment. He has a long history of talking about how childless women are taking over society and they're sociopaths. And I just, this is a huge problem. There's already a gender gap, or it's a huge problem for the Trump Vance ticket. There's already a gender gap in this campaign. Just anecdotally, in my life, from hearing from, women who are in their 30s and early 40s who have either had trouble with fertility or wanted to have a kid and weren't able to, or, didn't, find a partner that was appropriate to have a kid with, like, they're pissed. People that are non-political are posting about this on social media. And so I'm with Elise. I think a lot of this did not come from Harris focus groups. It bubbled up from the natural impression that people have had about J.D. Vance. And it is a message that has resonated and worked. I think if either campaign wants to learn a lesson, they should look at the Mark Kelly-Blake Masters midterm Senate race in Arizona, where Mark Kelly's campaign successfully called Blake Masters weird and extreme for a lot of these similar kinds of comments.
All right, Donna, so where does this leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic nominee? How do you handle this? Or do you just, frankly, let happen what's been happening, which is not good for J.D. Vance and Donald Trump?
Well, I think you let it happen. I mean, I think Elise is a rock star eliciting those conversations from those voters, because when you asked about J.D. Vance's name, the first thing that came out was snickering and laughing. That is the last place that you want to be as a vice presidential nominee. And so I think, as has been described, this is happening organically. People are listening to it. I mean, I listened to his comments about the, cat ladies, but also his comments about women staying in abusive relationships. These things are inconsistent with where the American people are. And I think you just let it play out and let them lay. On the other hand, Vice President Harris has an array of really competent, skilled choices for vice president. And I think that is going to be the contrast.